Hi, I'm here at the 2018 BioShares conference with James Garner from Cassia Therapeutics, discussing some of his perspectives on leadership. James, what are some of your favourite aspects of being involved in the biotech sector?
I think there's three things I really enjoy. In biotech, you get to work with really smart, well-motivated people, and I think anytime you get to work in that sort of environment, it's always really stimulating, really rewarding. We work with incredible science. Everything we do is right at the bleeding edge. It's the consummate application of science and human ingenuity to solving real-world problems, and that's always thrilling from an intellectual point of view. But then I think the final thing is, I'm a doctor by training, and at the end of the day, what we do when it works makes a huge impact on patients' lives. It really it extends and enriches and enhances patients' lives. And knowing that that's what's at stake, I think really helps all of us to get out of bed in the morning.
What do you think is the most important trait a leader should have in this sector?
I think there's two things. You need nerves of steel. Because everything that can go wrong in biotech, sooner or later, will do. So you really need to be able to hold your nerve as things happen in unpredictable ways. And I think following on from that, you've got to be able to adapt and adjust. It requires a real agility. It's not good enough in biotech to be good at one thing. You've got to be able to see things from a lot of different lenses at the same time. As an investor, a regulator, a clinician, a patient. And so I think that mental agility is something that all of us need to cultivate in this line.
Through your career, what do you feel is one of the most challenging things that you've dealt with, had to deal with as a leader?
In biotech, it's failure. Mm-hmm. I think particularly those of us that end up as a CEO of a company, we're all neurotic overachievers by nature. We all get excited by success, by achieving the things we set out to do. And biotech doesn't always work that way. Things can go wrong despite all the best planning and all the best execution. And when they do, you've got to be able to cope with that. I think the real challenge for anybody working in a leadership role at biotech is just dealing with the really tough odds of what we do, and knowing that half the time it's not going to work the way you think it does, and you have to be able to pick yourself up and carry on.
It was one of the best achievements you've had in the sector.
When I look at it overall, I've been part of about 30 NDA submissions in different countries, new drug applications. I've been involved in a couple of dozen clinical trials, and a number of those products now are globally marketed products. And each of those in turn is hopefully having an impact on patients at the end of the day. And so I guess when I look back on my career, that's how I measure it. It's really the things that I've helped to bring forward. I've played a part in bringing to market, and the impact I think they've subsequently had in clinical practice. I think that's that's sort of my record.
Okay. What is the best piece of advice that you've been given that you can share with us?
There were a couple of British comic writers in the early 20th century, and they wrote advice on polar exploring. And their advice to polar explorers was choose your companions carefully. You may have to eat them. And thankfully it never gets quite that drastic in biotech. But I think the first part of that really holds. Choosing your companions carefully, working with the best people you can possibly find, hanging on to them no matter what. That's the thing I think is the secret to success, and I think that's the thing that makes it a rewarding, exciting, happy environment to be in. So I've been really fortunate. I've worked with some amazing people over my career. I hope I always continue to, and I think that's certainly the best advice I've ever had, and the advice I would give to anybody is really to choose the best people you can find to work with.
Thanks, James. And look, I really appreciate you taking the time today to share your perspectives on leadership, and hope to talk to you in the future again.
Thanks, Lee. It's a pleasure.